Welcome to Getting Made. Today we are talking with Harrison Norris. Harrison is an incredible creative. He wears many hats, but you can see him right now in theaters in Mad Max Furiosa as Has the Valiant. So now, conversation with Harrison Norris. I'm glad you're here.
Good to be
I'm
here.
glad you're in the United States. I wish you were in LA more.
Me too. We got to work on that.
All right, so your schedule's busy, so we got to get through this quick. Let's do this.
Hit me. Let's go.
All right. So you're part of these enormous projects, and you always seem like you're a super high energy guy. But I'm wondering, like, there's got to be there's got to be like a time when you're doing like 25, 30 weeks or whatever it may be on one area, right? And it's like grinding and grinding, grinding. Like, how do you rest? How do you recharge? Like, how do you do that? How do you do those long
Super easy answer, and it's also the reason why I do so many things at once.
Mm-hmm.
I need a sense of purpose. I need to feel like I'm doing something, and it's something that I care about and I'm excited about, and there's a reason to be doing it, you know. But I also tend to hyper focus on a project and sort of lock in it. Like anyone, you can get burned out if you're working really hard on the one thing. Particularly if you feel like that particular thing isn't making progress at that time. So how I stay really productive is procrastination, but I just procrastinate productively. So I try and have a couple different things that I really want to be doing, and once I start burning out on one, I'll switch over to another. And then once that gets tough, I take the easy way out, and I just fucking procrastinate like anybody else, but it's with something else that's going to help me.
You're alternating.
And generally, I sort of procrastinate in a circle, and then everyone goes, "Well, how are you spinning so many plates at once?" And I'm not. I've got terrible self-discipline. I'm just always switching to the new shiny thing. Always helps me.
Wow.
And eventually, you get sort of three things across the line at once, and everyone goes, "You must be exhausted." And it's like, well, no, because I'm still waiting for someone to come and tell me to get a real job, because it feels like I'm having too much fun for it to count. This is, and don't get me wrong, there have been some terrible fucking experiences. I'm just speaking broadly. This is what I would, if I had like a regular 9 to 5, I'd go home and I'd be trying to do all of this in my free time. So I can't really complain, can I?
Right. That's great, man. So I actually would catch flack from a couple of my friends because they're thinking that I'm like doing too many things. And it's like, you guys don't understand. Like I have all these different pots that I'm stirring.
Totally.
Because the momentum is so hard to build that it's like, okay, when one thing is waiting, it's like, okay, now that I'm building the momentum on the next thing,
And I think it helps keep your view a little more objective as well, because when you're locked onto the one thing, you can lose perspective pretty quickly. But if you're able to have even just a small number of things that you're hopping between, if you're getting overloaded, you get a couple days just you're not even touching one thing then. And when you come back, you've got fresher eyes than you would have ever had otherwise. So you don't want to be juggling 10 things at once. But you pick your top few and just do 2, 3, 4 max at the same time. And I find that actually I get a lot more done and I feel better about all the things that I'm doing.
Fresh eyes, man. That's the ticket. I do that all the time. I will come back to a color grading session and I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah. No, that's exactly what it is though.
Yeah. I think Taika Waititi talked about that. And he's like, I'll write a script and I'll just put it away for like a year or whatever it is. And then I'll come back to it. But people don't want to hear that. People want to hear that it's like immediate. That you write a script and then you go and you make it.
Yeah, I think that was for What We Do in the Shadows, maybe. They were writing the script. It mustn't have been that. But he'd write the scripts, put them in the bottom drawer, he'd come back to him, he'd reread the script. And then he'd put it in the bottom drawer somewhere else, and he'd have to just rewrite it from his memory. What were the key big bits that he remembers? What are the bits that stuck out? Well, that's what works. Start there, and then maybe with fresh eyes, you've got some new connective tissue.
Yeah. Like the things that are memorable are the things that the audience is going to remember too.
And because also, I would like to think, and I can just speak for myself, I would like to think that my taste is dope. You know what I mean? And like, I'm really clever and I've got really good ideas. But if you're open to it, the best thing you can possibly be is wrong.
Yeah.
The best thing you can be is wrong, because if you thought it was cool, you're wrong, it means that there's a better version of it, or some fresh eyes and some new discussion can bring you another version of it. The best fucking thing you could possibly be is wrong. You know what I mean? So it's sometimes uncomfortable to throw out stuff that you were really proud of or you really, really wanted to work. But the best thing you can be is wrong.
When did you learn that? Because I feel like that took me many, many lessons. I feel like turning the failure into progress was a lesson that I probably had to learn over almost like 10 or 15 years.
Well, probably the same. I don't think there was like a light bulb moment for me. I think I was just sort of very lucky in that I got to grow up around this sort of thing and doing this sort of thing. I'm trying to sort of keep it semi-focused, but
don't worry about it.
I think
you can go wherever you want.
I think it started with almost like a gleeful, nihilistic take on the whole thing. You know what I mean? Where there were so many times, like we had deals for stuff that aren't even related to film that were like in the VR space with theme parks in China, where it was just for one of them where it was like, you are going to be a guaranteed millionaire, like a multi-millionaire. It's gonna happen. There's no way this could possibly go wrong. We've flown over multiple times. You've done the meetings, the handshakes. Everyone loves each other. It's great. You're just waiting for the ink on the paper. But of course it's not real until the ink's on the paper. And at the last minute, there's always something. And things that seem completely bulletproof can totally fall over. And stuff that, on the other side of that coin, stuff that I've made that I think is some of my worst work has done among the best. You know what I mean? So we don't know what the fuck's going on. You just got to, as long as you 100% believe in what you're doing and you want to be doing what you're doing, if nobody has the answer, if nobody has the recipe, I mean, you've got some very smart people with a lot of experience, but there is no hard recipe. And with that, I guess to come back to the gleeful, nihilistic version of looking at it, is there's no way to take pressure off yourself than saying none of it matters and we don't know what the fuck we're doing. You know, if you get too stuck on the one thing, you can hyper focus and lock on and, oh fuck, what if this doesn't work, and rah rah rah. But if from the outset it can be, I'm going to try my absolute best for this to work, but I actually don't have final control over whether it does or doesn't. All I can do is run at it full force the best way that I can. If nothing really matters and it's not really in your hands, that frees you up to stop hyper-criticizing yourself and just, no one knows what's going on. You know, there is no plan. Let's just try it.
That is a golden nugget that I wish I had when I was first starting out, because I was always holding on way too preciously. You know, I was like, nobody can see this. This is not good enough. You know,
I'll never forget the only reason that we started making anything half decent is because we ran out of basic mistakes to make. Like we used to, there was this, near where we lived, there was this shipping container yard that was about 20 minutes away from where we were living at the time. Me, my younger brother, and one of our really, really, really good friends, we found out that they only worked there 6 days a week. And so like clockwork, every single week we'd break in to this shipping container yard when we knew no one was there. We'd pass like crates, like plastic tubs, of like black spray painted Nerf guns over the wall and like costume pieces. And we'd like just run around and shoot terrible fucking action sequences, like the worst shit you've ever seen. But we loved it and we did it every single week. And we sort of learned what to do by learning what not to do by making those mistakes. You know, we kind of built like an anti-Bible of all the shit that, whoops, this didn't work, let's not do this again. Or, oh, it'd be better if we did this like this. And we started making better stuff. I'd like to say through divine inspiration, but I think it was just process of elimination.
Trial and error.
Yeah, just, you know, we were, at that time, we were posting shit on like a YouTube account. And anytime something hit double-digit views, that was a big day. You know what I mean? Like 8 views, that's pretty reliable. We hit 12, oh, we're on the money. You know?
That's great.
And funnily enough, I think doing that was some of the happiest I've been with the process, because it was about the process. Yeah. You know what I mean?
There's like complete play.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's sweet of you to say that you wish you had that thought when you were younger, but granted, it hasn't hasn't really made me rich or really catapulted me anywhere, but I'm happier doing it, and I'm doing this because I love it. You know, so I think there's something to be said for giving yourself the time to just love the process, and then let the rest of it come later, because otherwise if you're trying to do it for the final result, you're always going to be miserable, always, because what is success? What is, you know, there's always something bigger. There's always another thing to chase, and if you just want to be successful, you know, for the sake of that, I mean, that's a fucking nasty way to live, isn't it?
I don't think you can have the resolve. There's just so many setbacks and there's so many knockdowns. I don't think the chasing of like, oh, I'm successful is good enough. I think you really got to love filmmaking.
Oh, yeah. But even then, there was a period of time there where it just fucked me like a goddamn ragdoll, and I was going insane because I was really trying to get like these features up, and I'd really, really believe in these scripts, and I'm a slow fucking writer, man. I'm a slow writer. So I'd get this stuff, and it'd look really, really good and look like something was going to happen, and then it'd fall over completely out of my hands for nothing to do with me. It could be an exchange rate in another country changed, and something going, oh, whoops, and now this person isn't available, and it's a domino effect, and the whole thing falls over. And I went absolutely just mental for a little bit there. And I think the only reason I was able to sort of come back from that was finding another type of creative passion and going, oh, fuck, I remember how much I like making shit. And it's not just about the business. You can like the making shit. And then once I sort of got my head back, I was like, oh, okay, great. Now let's get back into the film side of things, because this is what it's supposed to feel like. But you can absolutely crush yourself up.
You can, man. I think, and I've seen that happen to a lot of people where it becomes a job, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Great coffee, by the way.
Oh, thanks, man. Glad you like it. Yeah. It's gonna finance all of our movies one day.
Get him, Coppola.
Get him. I learned a lot from him. But yeah, I feel like that is one of the things where you can sort of find that recharging energy in the flow state when you're just creating. It might not be for a paycheck, it might not be for anything, but you're just creating because you love to create. Yeah. And I've seen people literally walk away from the industry entirely because they're just like, you know, it's a job now. Yeah. They've lost the desire to participate in the creative process. And that breaks my heart because like, I think a lot of times the truly creative process comes with a tremendous amount of risk, you know, and TV doesn't like risk, and well, financiers don't like risk, so that's tricky.
There's some other stuff that I'm trying not to talk directly about,
Sure.
but
I
think that for anything to be like, I've made stuff that other people have liked that I haven't loved, and I'm still proud of it. But not in the same way as the stuff that maybe didn't go quite as well, but I was really connected to. But more so, I find that the things that people respond to, you got to have a little bit of blood in there. You know what I mean? If you can make something commercial and that can go great. Obviously, you want everything you make to be commercial to some degree. But if you say you're doing a pop song, right? If you followed an exact formula for what makes a good pop song, you'd have a song that was popcorn. It's fast fashion for the ears. You know what I mean? You could enjoy it really briefly, but in 3 weeks, no one's going to fucking remember half of it. If you want to make something that lasts and affects people, which is what I would rather have somebody feel affected by something, I think you got to have a little bit of blood in it every single time. I don't think you can do anything that's sterile.
Yeah, that's the tricky part. I think a lot of people they'll look at people who have spilt their blood making something, and they're like, oh, I really wish I had that person's life. And it's like, do you though? Do you really want to go through that? Because that's a lot of pain. Yeah. Are you willing to go through that?
But I think you need it.
Yeah.
I think you can't, or more that you can't do it without it. You need your stuff to resonate with people, and there's got to be a bit of you in there.
Yeah. When did you realize? So you said you were really really young with your brothers doing the action sequences and everything. Like, when did that start clicking for you? You're like, oh, I want to create this. I want to like get involved in this.
Well, honestly, for me, it started with when I was very very young. I was mostly interested in like game design and all of that, and I was interested in film, but it was more just because I wanted to be making something, and that's just how I sort of keep myself level and going. And it was through that I started to just absolutely fall in love with the process and the figuring it out, you know. I think that was really my jumping off point, because when we were sorry, actually no, before that I could say the first ever film, I blame my parents. That's what it is. I blame my parents because
it's a good starting point.
yeah, you know, when we were younger, we used to we figured if we could make these DVDs, like we'd make these short films, then we'd print them to like a little DVD or whatever. We could sell those effectively for like pocket money. So they started out like $5 for me. We'd spend all week making a movie for $5, you know. And then it sort of built and built. We're like, how can we upcharge? How can we? So by the end of probably like a year, 2 years of this, we're selling DVDs for $15. You know, and all of them, you'd have multiple movies on one disc. And we'd go to Officeworks and get the blank discs, and we had like a friend's printer that we could print to the disc on, and we'd do the box art and the whole case, and
That's legit,
you'd be bundling some little box sets,
company.
like trilogies, but they were like little 8-minute stop motion shorts, you know. First thing we ever shot was a sequel to The Matrix, having never seen The Matrix. we took I think it was Dad's MacBook. Was like the first one that had that little web camera on the front. Piece of shit webcam. But the first Mac to have a little camera in it. Yeah. And so we just chase each other around the house, shooting blind from the chest with this webcam. We're like mum's dinner coat and grandma's mirrored swimming goggles, and just throw each other over the couch. And I think I think that's literally just how I made all my pocket money as a kid. And I was like, fuck, I like this process, and just didn't stop.
That's epic, dude. We used to joke because I had a friend who had one of those first generation Macs.
Yeah.
And we were talking about, like, you know, strapping it to a crane and all that sort of stuff just because of the camera.
Yeah.
God, man. I started making films when I was like in high school, and I did not have an editing software. So I was like doing like the old school method, which was like trying to hit stop and record on like a VHS recorder, which is a nightmare. I don't recommend doing that. But it was gritty. It was definitely like analog, if you want to call it that. You know?
We did this. It was actually the thing that got me into the high school that I wanted to get to, and I've got to thank Hugh Jackman for that. Actually, we'd shot the film Australia. I had next to nothing to do with it. I was very very young. I was just hanging out on set. I was like a little extra that popped up in it.
Baz Luhrmann, right?
Yeah, that was Baz. But we're out there, and Hugh and his wife, sadly now at the time, Deborah, were incredibly into adoption. And so they had these two kids, Oscar and Ava. And Oscar was great, but I think still figuring a lot of stuff out. And we were at the sort of similar age. We're the only sort of kids on set. So we were hanging out with Oscar all the time, and then ended up hanging with Hugh through that. A couple of years later, I'd made this little tiny documentary. It was like 40 minutes long. And it was all on around Redfern in Sydney, back before they sort of gentrified the place. And it was all on the stolen generation and this and that. And so sort of went in and got these incredible stories, I think just because so many of these people have these wild stories, these wild experiences, but had no one outside of their own community to sort of talk to about it or give it the time of day. And we just shot this thing that was... it's still one of my biggest regrets is that we went in with a shitty little handy cam, like a little VHS tape handy cam with no proper mic, little separate sound recorder, windy area. Just wish that we had better sound for that, but we shot the thing. And that was the first time that we went to try and give it to some film festivals, and they were like, we cannot, if these stories are true, we cannot screen this. You're going to have to really, really heavily edit it. Wow. And then I forget how this all linked or happened, but it was through Hugh and Deborah. They got their hands on a copy somehow, and then offered to really, really support it. And they were trying to pitch it to, I think it was ABC, but the sound quality just was so terrible. There's nothing you could really do, and you couldn't go back and re-record the thing because it was so, in the moment, and you couldn't bring everyone for a fucking ADR session. But it was through all the buzz of that I managed to get into this sort of film high school situation back in Australia. But I got them to thank for that, honestly, because they really helped me with I don't even know how I got on this tangent.
No, it's great. No, that's awesome.
I don't know why I'm talking about this.
I didn't know that, so that's amazing. But there's something really interesting about that, and it's like, yes, technically you could be like, okay, well, there's a flaw in the audio recording, whatever, and it's hard for people to pay attention to. However, there's something that's like authentically gritty about that, and it makes people lean in.
As long as you can hear them.
Correct.
As long as you can hear them at all.
There's certainly a fine balance. There's no doubt about it. However, but I've noticed that like there's been some really gritty films that have impacted me more than like, let's say, like these shiny blockbusters, and it's like in the flaws. Like things that like people would be like, oh no, you can't submit that. That's not submittable.
Yeah.
It's like, well, this is like real stuff. This is like impactful stuff. So I know it's tricky. It's so hard because like you do want to get clean audio, but at the same time, it's like, do you remember? Was it in the Jinx? Remember that? The series?
I do.
I left the mic on him or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's tricky, man. It's
I had an immature little boycott of the Jinx for fucking years. I just refused to watch it, even though I heard it was really good.
Why?
Because I was at Slam Dance / Sundance.
Yeah.
And I was trying to run around. I had a really limited poster, but because I'm like just printing stuff myself and running around trying to like staple it to poles.
Yeah.
And every time I'd make it to one end of the street, I'd stick some stuff up, go to the other end of the street. By the time I made it back to the start of the street, HBO just bombed everything with the Jinx. So anything I put up within a couple hours, it'd be covered with a Jinx poster. And so I was like, fuck the Jinx. I'm never watching this. I just robbed myself of a great doco, really.
They had a marketing budget.
I was a petty kid.
So they don't do that anymore. Everything is like on the phones now.
Yeah.
But when they did that, the way I got around it, because I was on a similar hustle, trying to get my stuff, my poster scene, I knew from previous experiences that they would come through and they would blast these poster boards, and I built a copper wire frame that hung on the top of the it was like a prism, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
a triangular prism, and it literally stayed up there all week long, unbothered, and it was visible from every single angle.
That's great.
Just because I was like, I'm not gonna get plastered over.
Yeah,
right,
I love that.
By HBO and
That's
the Jinx.
great. That's great. The Jinx.
They had to come out with it too because the first one wasn't good enough. That's great, man. I love to hear that, man. I love that even though you had like people like Hugh Jackman like backing you, you still never lost like the hustle. You were like, just going out and do your own thing.
Well, you've got to, because no one's going to do it for you.
Right.
Like it's, if somebody assists, that's really cool and incredibly appreciated. But if you're sitting around going, oh, I've got a really cool thing here, I sure hope somebody helps me alley-oop, but like you're never fucking going to get anywhere. Like we threw this, you just got to figure out how to get people interested in it yourself, and then I'm trying not to go off on a million tangents.
It's fine,
here,
man.
But
I
I feel like LA in particular runs off 1.5 to 2 things. It's just heat / fear.
Fear is a huge lever.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's heat and fear. Like they aren't. No one's gonna jump onto your stuff if they could do it next week and it's exactly the same thing. It's got to look like there's a train leaving the station,
100%.
and they either get on or they miss out, right? Because nobody. It's the film business, at like an executive level. They're scared that you're going to make them look bad by losing a bunch of money, and they'd take a gamble on you, so they're not going to do it. The only reason that they're going to jump is if the fear of being the guy that passed over this opportunity is greater than the fear of, oh, well, what if it's a dud? So it's all just this manufactured heat that you need to generate, and then people can jump on board. But you can't get anything anywhere if you're not actively trying to stoke those flames, because there's not going to be a white knight that comes out and pushes your stuff for you, you know?
The art of building momentum is like a craft that should be taught. You know what I mean? Like that is a genuine craft to be able to go in there and be like, look, this is getting made. I'm doing this thing. If you want to get on board, you can. But if you don't, it's all right. See you later.
Yeah.
You know, but it's gonna be awesome.
I mean, well, you just gotta. It's kind of like I'm just talking basic marketing shit now. But you need to hit people with something novel. Like we threw me and my beautiful girlfriend, an incredible singer by the name of Zola Sky. Check her out on Spotify. Ran this. We threw a music festival back on the Gold Coast in Australia called Sounds. Oh, I'm wearing the fucking shirt. Sounds Dangerous. And trying to market that thing was just going to be this incredibly expensive, ridiculous uphill battle because we were starting from dot. So I remember I printed 750 stickers and then literally just walked around for an entire day until I was wearing the same boots that I actually wore in here. I was literally bleeding in the shoes. Just walked around, sticking stickers up everywhere, and I was like, oh, this is good for like a base level of awareness, but what can we do that's a bit different? So we went, okay, God, we Australians love to drink, and musicians fucking love to drink. People that love going to gigs love to drink. And there are so many bars 20 minutes either side of the venue we're going to throw this thing at. So I went into every single major bar up and down the coast with like the poster and all the press materials, and was like, hey, you know, if we've got an amazing show, there's like 16 artists. How many artists was it? Was it fucking, I don't know. We're playing like, I've forgotten the stats now, but we had a heap of artists playing for like half a day of music from like 2 PM to 10:30 at night or whatever it was. I think it was 16 artists. Oh, it's going to be amazing. Oh, we've got a live art show. And they're all, what? Okay. You know, how'd you get in here? Fuck off. You know, we weren't having a bar of it. So I was like, okay, well, what can we do that's going to shock and get a bit of attention? And with my stunt background, I was like, oh, I can just set myself on fire. I can do that. So realized that as soon as I walked into these bars, I'd walk in and it'd be, how'd you get in here? I go, I'm going to set myself on fire live on stage. Also, it's a music festival. And they'd literally slide over the car like a fucking bonnet slide. Oh, what? Oh, fire? Oh, what's happening? And then they were right into it. And at the end of the day, we had a whole bunch of these bars that all put a custom cocktail on their menu called the Sounds Dangerous, and we did up and printed them all custom coasters with different codes on each of them, so we could track what bars were selling the most of these drinks. We had, you know, readout of 10 from this place, 30 from this place. Oh, that's not really good enough, you know. So we just went up and down and got all these bars to add a limited time cocktail to the menu, and it's like the end of a really long chain of things, and someone at the end goes, oh wow, that's really clever. I walked into every single bar, and every single bar had a thing that was named after the festival, a discount code. Oh wow, how'd you come up with that? It was, we literally just backed into it by going, oh well, this isn't really interesting enough. Oh, they don't really want to give me the time of day for this. Oh fuck it, I'll set myself on fire. You know, give them a bit of razzle dazzle and just hit the bricks yourself. Yeah.
When in doubt, do the burn.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. And then you can sort of pin them against each other a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, oh,
absolutely.
This is doing a better job than, you know.
But that comes back to the heat thing. Maybe a little on the nose here. It's kind of literal. But, we're trying to do a thing. Fuck off. It's a big show and I'm going to set myself on fire. Oh, fuck. How do we get on your branding? You know, that's it.
That's epic, man. How old were you when you did your first burn?
I don't know. Maybe like would have been around the sort of 16, 17 age, I think. We were like 12 years old and Dad was chucking us off the roof. It was stunts was like family business, you know. So
what is it, like, how many burns would you say you've accumulated? Like, how many would you say?
Oh, not a heap. Yeah, not a heap. No, there's other guys that are putting up much bigger numbers than I am, you know.
What are you thinking? Like when you're literally on fire, like what are you thinking?
Well, that's really interesting. Not a lot. I mean, you ever done anything where you sort of you're trying to balance on something, or you're trying to thread a needle through something you're not really seeing or thinking about a whole lot else? For me,
so focused.
It's that. Oh, it's, you get kind of this calm where you just, a lot of other stuff goes away and just sort of keeping track of what's going on because, I mean, the way that it goes, you've usually got like either it's layers of clothing or, if you're lucky, like a silicone sleeve with burn gel under it. But what happens is that gel on the inside is going to get exponentially hotter. So the second that it feels a bit warm, you're already in trouble and it's got to come off. So it's not like you're running around out there going, oh, wow, this is really hot, but I'm a tough man. I can take it. You know what I mean? Like the second it's getting a bit warm, you got to basically call it off if you're doing any sort of sustained burn. But if you keep moving around a whole lot, just keep air traveling over the fire, don't let it settle, looks better, and it sort of keeps you cooler and you can go for longer. But it's the funniest thing I've seen. I've seen some big guys, like tougher guys than me, just lock up once you set them on fire. It's a psychological thing. Some of them, they get lit up and then they just stop and stand completely still and just watch the fire. And if they're not moving around, it gets really hot in that area, and that's really fucking bad. And you've got to run in and pat them down, put them out. But some of them just gloss over, and some people are fine. It's odd, really. It's
like a primal fear, It's like,
yeah,
geez.
but it's not like a technically challenging thing to do. Just don't don't fall over. Keep moving. Stay chill.
That's your expertise, man. I'm gonna let you stick on that one.
It's the real tough guys are the safety guys. You know what I mean? Because they've got to keep an eye on you in case you wig out. And they've got to run in and they've got to be taking care of everything. I'm just flapping my arms around. Really, it's everyone else that's impressive.
Does Braveheart still own the most number of burns or whatever? I can't remember.
Oh God, I don't even know. That's a good stat. I feel like I should know that.
Yeah.
Gonna get
most people on fire at one time. I think it's
excommunicated from stunts for not knowing that bit of trivia. You got to edit this out.
No, it's done. Braveheart out. Gone.
No.
I think it was that gate scene where they pour all the oil and everything, and everyone's trying to do the ramming. I think that has the most number of people on a burn on screen at the same time.
Cool stat.
Pretty sweet stat. I think that was the film that I saw when I was a kid that I was like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
I definitely want to make films. What do you think is what's the toughest challenge you've ever had on set? Like, do you remember the day that you were like, oh man, this is a real tough puzzle to solve, and what was it?
Probably better that I don't.
Okay.
Probably better than I don't. But no, there was a particular director that's quite a large director, and to be clear, I really respect his work, despite what I may think of that experience and the way that he conducts himself and the team around him. You couldn't fucking pay me enough money to jump into that shark pit again. Horrible experience, worst experience of my professional life. Even then, I can still say I respect this director's work. He's got a absolutely masterful control and awareness of like the big picture, audience emotional through line. So still all credit to them as a creative. But yeah, that was a fucking gnarly gig. There were times that I'd be in the warehouse that we were working in, and there was one time where I didn't go home for 4 days because we were doing all the sort of action design and previous stuff, and we didn't have proper rendering tool was broken between versions of the engine, blah blah blah. And so they had to be manually rendered one at a time. So we had this sequence with like 450 cameras in it, and a little timing change would be added, which had, we need an extra 2 seconds on this. But the whole sequence wasn't shot-based. It was happening in like a football play. The entire sequence would play out as this singular piece of action. And we didn't have tools at this point to streamline updates to that. So you'd add a bit of action here, and then every single camera from that point on would be out of sync with everything else. So we'd have these crazy 48-hour turnarounds or what have you, where you'd need to update 350, 450, whatever the fuck it was, number of cameras and have them ready to go. But after they were all updated one at a time, you'd also need to render them out one at a time. So we're in this warehouse, and I didn't go home for 4 days. I just worked constantly, and I had a little cardboard. Oh, and you couldn't turn the lights off in the warehouse because they were connected to the power for the whole thing. It'd kill the computers. So I was smelling like shit, sleeping in a cardboard box for 20 minutes at a time. So I'd set a render, phone next to my, wriggle into the cardboard box, phone next to my head, go to sleep, wake me up, back to the computer, move this, back to the box. And it was just, a solid 4 days of that. Can't appreciate a sunny day without a few rainy ones. So
nobody's looking out for you at that moment. No union or rep or anything like that's coming through and being like, "Hey, man, you need to take a break."
No. I mean, it was the team was lovely to me. By the end of the last day, I was so tired that I was sort of lightly hallucinating and my balance was going. So I had someone in particular was very lovely, and they were chasing me with a wheelie chair for the whole last day. So anytime I started to wobble, they'd behind me, like, "No, I'm fine." But you got to have a team that really looks out for each other.
Mm-hmm.
So probably not a really interesting story if I can't elaborate on a lot of it. But
no, that is.
That was horrible. And it had a bigger effect on me than I thought that it did. That lasted a lot longer than I thought that it would.
Mm-hmm.
Like I thought I was completely fine a couple of months after that. It took me a while to actually realize how much that had got its claws in. Not that 4 days, but that whole project was a really nasty fucking experience. And it was.
What is that? Like, I feel like there are certain people that just don't understand burnout, and they will just give you all the tasks, and they'll just be like, "Hey, yeah, you got this."
Yeah. A lot of it is, in this particular case, reliant on internal politics and this, that, rah, rah, rah. But you got different types of creatives. Some are really, really collaborative and trying to make something together as a team,
Mm-hmm.
and some people are these big self-declared geniuses that'll be horrible to everyone around them. And this particular case, there was no unity or loyalty inside any sort of teams, Everyone was very concerned with self-preservation, even all the way at the highest levels, and were trying to anticipate what this director wanted before they wanted it. And so everyone was running in different directions and just so desperate and so panicked all the time. They were throwing each other under the bus relentlessly. It was just, you need a level of trust between your team, and you're all trying to make something good. But every single one of those motherfuckers would have sold their mother out for half a handful of sweaty Skittles in a heartbeat. And it was the people and the environment. Like the film, I'm proud of how the film turned out. I think it was great, but just the working environment was enough to. That was the biggest rattle that I think that I've had, is doing a almost a year of that, and that was, work with good people.
Yeah, that's the ticket, man. And that, I mean, it took me 10 years to find the people that I was like, okay, I can work with these people for like the next 30, 40 years,
Yeah, and you don't always get to pick the people that you work with,
right.
So when you find someone that you like working with, do everything you can to keep working with them, because you don't get to pick. You don't get to pick. And usually you got people that are incredibly talented and the people you really like, and there's very little overlap.
Mm-hmm.
And when someone's both of those things, just lock in where you can and stay close with that person however you can, because you're supposed to like the process. You're not supposed to be gritting your teeth the whole way.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like it shows up in the product. Like, you're like, I'm proud of this. Not only am I proud of this, but I enjoyed the creation of this. I think that shows up in the end result. And then you get to work with people that are really fantastic, like George Miller and everything. So how do you describe the difference? Like,
George is the exact polar opposite of that experience. He is, to his core, a fucking lovely, lovely man, and I cannot say enough nice things about him. Also an incredibly secure creative. You know what I mean? Like he's brilliant, first of all, but it's not just, hey, I'm brilliant, this is what we're doing, rah, 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 rah. Like, there was a lot of troubles. I think I can talk about some of it because a lot of it was documented in that Blood, Sweat and Chrome book, and there's been YouTube documentaries, but the process of creating Fury Road for George and everyone at that level was an absolute fucking nightmare, particularly on the studio side, and even with friction on set with key actors. Some key actors, I think, mistook George's patience and appetite for collaboration and his just genuine sweetness as a weakness or an indecisiveness, and just him being a really, really decent person, they thought meant that he didn't actually know what he wanted or what he was doing. So if anybody could come up to George and they could have a terrible fucking idea, a terrible idea, but he's going to stop and he's going to talk to you and ask you why you think that. And he's, oh, interesting, oh, maybe. He knows exactly what he's going to do. He's just an incredibly sweet man. But then you'd have people with a bit of anxiety as to, oh, well, am I going to look really good in this and what's going on? And we're all taking a big risk doing this type of project, you know. And they'd mistake that for, he's a doddery old guy that doesn't know exactly what he wants, and now we're going to do our own thing. And then there's a horrible battle where, that's exactly what you want to be working with, someone that's gonna be sweet and collaborative with absolutely everybody. I don't know, man. I think it's just a cultural thing. I think that he's been able to sort of build his own house and work with the people that he wants to, and there's a shorthand and a trust, and then when you got to step outside of that, some people just, that's new to them. That's completely new to them, and it's only used to, who's got the bigger gun at any moment, who gets to make the decisions. And just the complete opposite. He is an incredible gentleman.
That's awesome. I just feel like getting actors to trust you is always a tricky process.
Absolutely.
I think Darren Aronofsky talked about that with Russell Crowe. I think he was like, at some point you're going to have to trust me with, I think it was Noah, because we're going to Noah.
Okay.
And it was like, at some point you're going to have to let me take the reins and trust me, because I'm Darren Aronofsky.
Yeah.
And Russell Crowe was like, well, maybe last week.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, I think that's the thing as well, is it's, okay, to put it this way, everyone's got a gun. Every single person on earth has a gun. If you are the sort of person that runs around screaming and shouting at people, you're fucking fired, and this, that, rah, 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 whatever, it's basically like you got your gun out the whole time and you're shooting in the air. If you got that gun out, it's not scaring anybody. It's just, so-and-so will calm down, give him a little bit of a break. He's shooting again, it's just a Wednesday. But someone like George, if he stays very, very level and very, very sweet, if at any point you even see the slightest outline of a handle of that gun, everyone goes, oh, shit, because you never, ever see that. And I think it's such a cultural thing, particularly over here. You've got so many screamers. And, Shannon, that's where collaboration and trust goes to die, 100%. I think that you need someone with restraint and some dignity.
I'm always looking for the quiet person.
Yeah.
Every time I go into a room, I'm always looking for the person who's just watching and listening. Every time. What do you think is, since you spent so much time with George, Mr. Miller, whatever you want to call him, since you spent so much time with him, what do you think is the number one lesson that you learned from watching him operate?
I genuinely think that it is that incredible collaborative patience and spirit. He knows what he wants, but he will listen and talk with everybody and let stuff evolve, and there's no ego in ownership. You know what I mean? The world it's his world. It's his world. But if somebody else has a good idea, he doesn't have to be the loudest, smartest guy in the room. If a good idea is good, he'll want to use it, but he's going to pull it apart and he's going to pick through it. But you get such a dramatically improved final product because he's open to that, but also has complete confidence in his curation. You know what I mean? It's not just, oh, hey, everyone throw whatever in. He's receptive, but also decisive and precise in exactly what he wants. And that style of working, I've never seen in anybody else, that level of respect for the individual at any point. I think I'm basically just trying to shamelessly emulate that.
You got to have an ideal, you got to aim for something.
Yeah.
That's great, man. I mean, what a top-notch education that is.
Oh yeah.
That's incredible. What do you what are you most excited about coming up? Like, what do you feel like? I know, like you were saying, there is a sort of pervasive attitude of fear, especially right now with AI sweeping through, Sora, all that sort of stuff is shaking things up. I'm a habitual eavesdropper. I'm always listening to executives as they are panicking.
Yep. When are they not? Do you ever stop eavesdropping?
Right. I seriously, I feel like, if you were to measure the heart rate of executives, they would just be like never dialed down. What do you see as an opportunity right now? As things are shaken up, where are you aiming? Like, what are you doing? What are you moving to in order to try and like sort of not get knocked over?
There's one very, very exciting thing that I absolutely cannot talk about. But even then, nothing's real until the ink's dry on the paper. So if that happens, that would be life-changing and amazing. If it doesn't, it doesn't, and we'll keep trying with something else. So there's one thing that I'm very hopeful stays the course. I think that would be incredibly exciting. Around that, I'm trying to get a lot of my own stuff up through. So we've got Proxy, which is a company that I co-founded that essentially does an entirely new type of previs and action design. So as opposed to sort of traditional shot-based previs that often has to happen completely prior to a lot of the key creatives getting on the film, right? Because it's a studio mandate. Mm-hmm. You say, the Hulk's going to throw Spider-Man through a building. You go, I know what that looks like. And I go, I know what that looks like. But our versions might cost completely different things. In your version, he just disappears through a wall and 100 people scatter. In my version, the street's deserted, but we follow him through the wall into another set. So the studio mandates previs being created for just about every major sequence. Mm-hmm. And the spend on that can easily be $1.25 million, $1.5 million, pretty fucking easily. But because a lot of this is hand animated, and that takes time, they'll often start this before they land all the key creatives onto the project. So you'll have these major films where the DOP then walks onto set and goes, oh, cool little animation. I'm not going to fucking put a camera there. And it goes straight in the trash. And it's useless. You know what I mean? It's done for a studio comfort. And that's not to say all previs is like that, but I've seen that happen a fucking lot. Mm-hmm. So we sort of started our own process just for ourselves, where we were using like modified versions of a game engine, the Unreal Engine, which is magnificent. Yeah. And we'd basically do a new type of motion capture with these inertial suits. So as opposed to an optical system where you need a capture volume, these inertial suits, you rig them with all these little sensors that detect gravity, magnetic north, their position in relation to each other, and inertia. And you can capture that without a volume. So, I mean, we shot a thing where we had to have a sequence where it's basically a big car chase in this karaoke van, and you got someone there's multiple bikes trying to close in on this van, and a guy shooting out the side across 5 lanes of traffic, and meanwhile people in the van are fighting with each other, and they sideswipe a bike, the pillion will get flicked into the van, and then they're fighting and rolling on the ground. Good fucking luck motion capturing that with a conventional optical system. You're going to have this crazy chicken wire maze that you're trying to shoot in. But with these inertial suits, we can just slam on the ground and roll each other around. And we actually rented a rent-a-car that was exactly the same dimensions as the car that we were using virtually. And we literally just drove that in laps to have the actual G-forces really tossing each other into the walls. Then you take that data and as long as you start with a 0 point, we take that data, drop it in, and you've got motion capture you could never do otherwise. That's why you sort of animate a lot of these scenes, because if you're wearing a suit and I'm wearing a suit, grab each other, we're right in each other's face, your back is blocking the camera from seeing my front and vice versa. And if you're shooting at 240 blinks a second, it's a lot of cleanup work. But with these inertial suits, you can really shoot anything, anywhere. We shot in a moving van underground. So we basically bring our stunties in, shoot what would otherwise be a finalized stunt rehearsal, but we capture the whole thing. And you take that data, you lay it up in the middle of a virtual space, just out in the open. Then you can use either photogrammetry, if it's a real world location, to build out that environment, or if it's a fantastical location, you create that. And And then you essentially have a sort of freestanding virtual film set. And we'll place cameras around that, but only with the actual lens package that they're going to have on the day and the actual film batch you're going to have on the day. Virtual recreations of the lights. So if you want to have a particular shot that's going to travel like this up over a bus, then you go, okay, well, let's see, what crane are you actually going to have? You've got a 40-foot crane, and that's actually not going to work on the angle here. So you need a 30-foot crane for that. So with the 40-foot, the camera's actually going to have to be here. Is that okay? So you're completely slavishly dedicated to what's actually practically achievable on the day with the kit that you've got. And then it just becomes this creative sandbox. So we can jump in with the director, and if they say, oh, it's the same way that the cinematographer would say, oh, cool animation, but I'm not going to put the camera there. 15 seconds later, we can move that camera, put it wherever they like. We can do these shots live, move lights live, and then you've essentially got this blueprint of exactly where all your real gear needs to be and how it needs to be set up. And you can spit these things out, do a whole rolling edit. We've had films where we've done this, and it's replaced storyboards, and we've turned up to set with a watchable version of the final sequence that we've gone over a dozen times with whichever director is doing it, and we just switch the shots out for the live action shots one at a time until the sequence is replaced. So we've been doing a lot of work with this system for years and years and years, but just now we're starting to make a move into not just doing basically prep work and design work for other films, but actually doing some original content. And we're just starting that. And I've got the first sort of 10, 15 minutes of a feature that I've written that we're doing with a whole sort of very stylized look and feel. And I'm very, very, very excited that hopefully we can get a little bit of traction with that, because that's a fucking fun project. And I would really like to be able to make the whole thing. So we're just doing the first 15 of that now, and if that's got some legs, hopefully we can circle back and make the rest. But yeah, that one's a lot of fun.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
So I really hope that we get that one across the line. It's going to be called 3 Nights in Namyong.
3 Nights in
Namyong.
And what is that?
I made it up.
Oh, nice. Okay. Fair enough. I was like, where is that? So with Proxy, are you going to be? You're basically, you come in with the sandbox and you do everything for them.
Yeah.
Is there another possibility of you consulting? Like, basically, like, they can phone you up and be like, hey, like, we need to know how to save a grip ton of money, you know?
Well, the one thing that I can say that I'm really, really proud of with Proxy is I don't think we've ever done a film where we cost more money than we saved by being on the film. So even stuff like with there was a particular film that we did that had a massive fight sequence out on a one-to-one recreation of Fifth Avenue in New York. So they were doing one-to-one trying to replicate this real-world brownstone architecture, and it's 250-foot long set, which is expensive. And at the last second before they greenlit the construction of everything, they had to change the soundstage they were shooting in. And they went, yep, this is all good. But we had the whole virtual version of that new soundstage. And we found that in this other stage, the lighting gantry was about 5 feet lower. Wow. And so the set wasn't actually going to fit all the way across. So we were able to talk to production and say, hey, you're actually going to have a problem here. If you shave the top 5 feet off all the way along, you're going to save X amount of money. And they go, oh, fantastic. So before the construction's even started, we've done that, and we've gone, okay, well, this can't be here. If you're going to put your green screens here, we can show them, hey, this isn't physically going to go here, and rah. So that saves a bit of money. But then when we shot the entire sequence, we did all the director's cameras that he liked. But when that actually made it to the edit, I was watching it and I had a sort of a funny feeling. And so I went back into the project and realized that none of the cameras that were pointed at the back 50 feet of the set, the director wanted all those shots, but once he'd actually edited, none of those shots actually survived and made it into the edit. So we're able to go, hey, with the coverage that you've got for your final edit, you don't use any of this. So you could probably strike the back 50 feet of the set and just replace it with a flat. And they looked at it and went, oh no, yeah, that's right. And then before we'd ever even set foot on this set or construction had even started, they'd saved, I can't say exactly how much money, but a sizable amount. And it's literally just by having this everything visually represented in a sandbox that everyone can look at it and see the same thing. Yeah. And so if we look around this room, I'd say, how many people can fit in this room?
Not many.
But you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
no, shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah.
Like, what's the most people you could squeeze in this room? Some people would say, 30 people. Some people would say 150 and you could stack them. It's crazy how different people's spatial awarenesses are. So just having a sandbox that everyone can immediately see it visually represented changes so much. You know, and you can even bring in the costume department and say, you know, I'm trying not to talk about specifics, but there was a particular film that we were on where there was a large debate about elbow capes. And so we were able to just spit out the exact same thing, multiple versions with a final edit, with elbow capes made of all different materials to see how they'd move, how they'd look under the lights. And they were able to immediately go, oh, shit, this one. And it's just being able to look at something and have the onus back on the creative so you can sort of very rapidly iterate these changes and experiment in a space before time costs money is invaluable. I wouldn't want to make films any other way whatsoever. So it's a lot of fun to now be trying to create some original content of our own in that same sandbox.
Sounds valuable, man. Sounds like you're going to be busy. Sounds like people.
I hope so.
Sounds like people need to save some money. So
I hope so.
I think your phone's going to be ringing often. So for the 3 nights in
Namyong,
what's the next step? Like, how can people support that? How can people get on board with that?
I think we'll sort of have to make that first chunk of it, and then if you like it, tell your friends.
Right. And so where are you gonna be showing this for people to see and support it?
Honestly, we're very, very early stages. We're still making the first chunk of this thing. Animation's slow and it's expensive once you're taking it to final pixel. It's that last 5% that takes the most time and money. So no confirmation as to where you can look out for it yet, but I mean, you can be the first to know.
All right, good. When it arrives, I'll be putting it out there into the world.
Oh, thank you, mate.
I'm fascinated with how does it work, like coming from a family that has been involved in some like absolutely legendary films. Like, how does that feel? Like what's the family dynamic like? Like, what is?
No, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
Just fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's,
and so you and your brothers, you still
yeah,
create together?
Yeah. I mean, less so now. He's got his own gigs. I think he's in Hong Kong at the moment. You know, he's a busy boy. No, he's brilliant. He's much more on the full stunts and stunt coordination path. But I'm so fucking proud of him. He's brilliant. Really good performer too. Really good performer. He moves well.
When you say someone who moves well, what does that mean? Like, what do you think?
I've got to look at motion capture data all the time that often won't even have the full character skins on it yet. And when we've got a battle where someone's being attacked by 5 henchmen, I can always tell who Harlan is immediately because the motion capture is so precise. You can if you know the people that are performers, you go, fuck, well that's Harlan, that's Liam, that's Tim. And yeah, just weird thing to say, I know, but God, he moves well. Really, really, really good movement on him. I think he'd be is a killer fucking performer. And he's got a great eye for action design too. And he's careful and he's methodical. So he's going to be a hell of a coordinator. He has been. He was a sequence coordinator on Furiosa, as well as doing all doubling work for Chris and whoever else.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So you got multiple credits. You got multiple credits.
Yeah, I was very, very happy just to...
Has IMDb relented yet? Or
no, I haven't put that through yet. They weren't having a bar of that
we're
before.
We're going to blast IMDb right now.
No.
Give Harrison his 3 credits.
Well, it's 4, baby. Yeah. No, but that's all thanks to George, honestly. Because right before, probably about 3 weeks before the premiere, I got a phone call. Studios doing their regular thing, basically saying, hey, trying to trim the credits down. Everyone gets 1 credit max, and a bunch of people aren't being credited. This happens all the time. We did, I'm pretty sure it was X-Men, that the entire rigging department didn't get a credit. I could be wrong, so I don't want to say that for certain, but it's if it was X-Men, it's fucking X-Men. Yeah. All they do is levitate.
Why would the studio do that? I don't understand.
They just trim names out of credits all the time, just keeping it lean and mean. Squad 2, Suicide Squad 2, Proxy was completely uncredited in the credits. You know, it's a common thing. It's a common thing.
That's infuriating.
But so they called up, and I've basically got to pick one credit. It can be the acting credit. It can be the stunts credit as a performer, or it can be proxy credit for sort of a lot of the work with George crafting these sequences, or helping him, facilitating him crafting these sequences. And I thought, oh, fuck, you know. I mean, I want it to be stunts, but, you know, I've got a lot of stunt credits. There's cast on this one. I don't know if I'm ever going to get another big, because I'm not chasing acting, you know what I mean? So I was like, I don't know if I'm going to get another acting credit.
Sometimes that works, man.
So
Sometimes not chasing it works.
I think it's got to be that. Oh, but I want the proxy work. Oh, let's see. If there's any... priority one is the cast credit, because I don't know if I'm going to get another one of those. And the other one is proxy as a runner-up, because I'm proud of the creative work that we've done on this thing. But, I hope I can maybe get two. And then we rocked up to the screening, and I know that it was George and Doug. Four credits in there. My mind was blown. There was even one I wasn't expecting. I got like an additional story contributions, and I just sitting in the theater like, oh. It's so sweet of them. They really, really, really fight for individual people. Just magnificent.
That's great, man.
Yeah.
Got your 4 credits, brother.
Yeah. Well, it was even
I'm proud of you.
The cast thing was fucking ridiculous, because I mean, this will give you a perfect idea of how George works. So we'd be on Zoom for upwards of 4 hours a day, multiple times a week, for I think close to a year, just working on these sequences. And just the way that he collaborates. So there's a whole bunch of these war boys that obviously make it on and off the tanker. You know the sequence I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And we had this one war boy that in this previous version of the action had ended up with the front engine was on fire, and so he was going to climb out there and be trying to pour milk in it. And then when he ran out of milk, he just unzips and pisses into the engine to try and put it out. And I immediately was like, dibs. I want to be the war boy that dies with his dick out. 100%. That's film history. And so I desperately want to be that war boy. And so I started just myself calling him Piss Boy. And then finally, after a couple of weeks of this, we had a Zoom call with George, and I slipped up during. He was going, oh, well, what war boy can make it to this excavator at this time? I was like, oh, Piss Boy's around. And he goes, who? I go, oh, War Boy 12. No, Harrison, what did you say? A War Boy 12? No, Harrison, what was it that you said? I'm like, oh, I'm in the principal's office. I go, Piss Boy? He goes, Piss Boy. Piss Boy. And then straight away, he's like, oh, Piss Boy. And he's talking about Piss Boy and the idea of this character. And then literally a couple days later, he's written all these additional scenes for Piss Boy. Like, there's this whole confrontation where he's trying to get Anya's character. He's just going around collecting piss from everybody, but as a woman secretly disguised as a man, she can't do that. And there's this whole sort of confrontation with everyone looking, and how does she get out of that? And there's all these additional scenes for this character now that just came off this one thing, and George's mind is coming up with all this brilliant stuff. And I auditioned for Piss Boy, because now all of a sudden he's not just a stunt role, now he's a character. Mm-hmm. You know, so now it's worldwide auditions. So I'm trying to do these self-tapes and hold on to this role. And I made it really pretty far, I think, and we got right to the end. And then the role basically went to someone younger. They wanted Piss Boy to be like 14 years old. And I always would have expected that if I didn't get it, I'd find out by just walking into the production office and there's a cast photo on the wall. Oh, fuck, I didn't get it. You know what I mean? That's all I was expecting. But I found out that I didn't get the role through George. He called me personally for what could have been a 5-minute conversation. Oh, hey, mate, sorry, bye. We talked for an hour on the phone where he was just being so sweet about it. And like, you'd never expect someone like that taking the time. And then through the conversation, he went, oh, but don't worry, I'll find something else for you. And I go, oh, no, George, you don't please, you don't have to worry about that. No, find something else. And when he hung up the phone, I was like, oh my God, that's just ridiculous. That's almost even better than the role, just that level of care. It's so sweet. And and then really sort of thought that was going to be it. And maybe I can just do some stunt stuff, but the acting thing's gone. But now you look at the posters of the film, and they've got fucking Has the Valiant on them, who's this character. When I was young, growing up the whole time, like when we were making these short films, everyone called me Has. And my first ever car was a restored 65 Valiant. So then, 2 years later, I'm in Times Square, and I'm looking at myself on a poster, and Has the Valiant is sticking out the window with a shotgun. So just, what fucking director? Because I'm not writing the film. I'm not his DOP. You know what I mean? I'm not. The level of care and attentiveness for individual people that aren't right on the top level, that's just fucking unheard of. What an incredible filmmaker, and what an incredible person.
That's awesome, man. I think that's why the greatness comes through, and you're right. It is movie history. That's awesome.
There are directors that I've really, really, really enjoyed working with. There are directors I've had a horrible fucking time working with. But there are a lot of people who would dive on a grenade for George. And that's not because the films are good. Mm-hmm. It's because of who he is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's what it takes to be a good leader, Yeah. After watching Furiosa, I was just like, people were asking me, like, hey, how is it? How is it? How was the film and everything? And I was just like, I don't even know what to say. I'm like, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
And when I would try to describe it to them, I was just like, you guys, in terms of story and action, are so far above what everybody else is doing right now. It's almost like you're looking at the pro squad and like a JV team. You know what I mean? It's like people need to up their game. Like if this is what people are capable of doing, everybody needs to stop and look at what he's doing and what you guys are doing and take notice. So I was very, very impressed, man. It was really phenomenal.
Oh, I'm just glad to have been any sort of part of it, really. It was just an incredible collaborative effort. Everyone brought their A game. I just hope that people like it, and I hope enough people go and watch the damn thing, I want to see it have legs. I really do. It's this is, if I could only work with one team ever, this is it. You know what I mean? So you want to see everybody win.
Mm-hmm. Well, you got your world building to do and your story to create. So
I'm working on it. I'm trying.
I'll be there. Whatever I can do to facilitate and help out, I will always do. So.
Oh, thank you. It's very sweet of you, man.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you for spending the time, and I am super glad that we got to hang out.
Yeah, me too.
And got to meet your lovely lady. She's very sweet.
Stunning.
She's very awesome. Very stunning, yes. Did a photo shoot in the middle of Hollywood. That was nice. That was great. But yeah, dude, anytime you're in LA, obviously, let me know.
Oh, right,
we'll get together.
Always.
Appreciate you.
Pleasure, man.